Buongiorno e ciao a tutti. Story time. I think you would like maybe a story about how an American student's smile saved my teaching career and my academic career at the very beginning of my American journey. I remember this with deep warmth because it was a very, although terrible at the moment before the smile, then that smile from that student changed everything for me. And a little bit of context, I was in my early 30s. I had just moved from Italy, from Turin, Italy, to Madison, Wisconsin in the United States for my PhD in Italian literature. And as a requirement for that PhD, I was asked to teach a class to undergraduates, an introductory class. It was an Italian 101 class, introductory Italian, elementary Italian, call it what you like. And I was very excited about it because I was, and I am, extremely passionate. But at that time, I was fairly inexperienced about teaching because it was like 16 years ago. It was the very beginning of January 2010. And I had a small introduction and some lesson planning and some guidance and some help from my department, from other TAs, other teaching assistant people like me, who were pursuing degrees and at the same time were teaching. And so I was not completely unprepared, but still the action of going in front of a class of young American students and having my own class for the first time, and that was the first day of my first semester in a foreign place, in Wisconsin. I had never lived for a long time, such a long time, in the United States before. I was just an exchange student during high school, nothing more. So I remember of that day, beginning of January, how cold it was and how black it was. It was the first class in the morning, 8 a.m. So it was like 77, 37, 25. I was walking from my apartment to our tower. I remember that all the languages department were in a big tower, Van Nuys, if memory serves, right? And everything was very dark. The ice was thick on the pavement. My feet with my boots were screeching. And the snow was tall. The snow was very tall around me. And I was walking, I was thinking about my new life in America. I had just arrived in a few days, not even a week. I was still kind of jet-lagged. And I had started the PhD classes, and now I was going to start my teaching career. So I had previously some experience on teaching, but I had to pursue it by myself because during the Italian PhDs, usually you don't teach. You may substitute your teacher, your professor, or you may help him or her during exam time, but you're not assigned classes. You're not assigned courses, at least not when I was doing my Italian PhD in Italy before 2010, at least in my university, the University of Turin. So everything was new, everything was exciting, and I was not planning on being paralyzed in front of a classroom because I had taken volunteer classes. I had taught as a teacher, volunteering to teach to foreigners in Italy through a church, a Don Bosco church in Turin, in the center of Turin. And I had some successes, some very satisfied students, very grateful, wonderful people that I always bring in my heart. And so even though I didn't have the foundation of teaching that were coming. Little by little, they were coming later during the American time. I had some previous experience, so I was pretty much optimistic. Then I walk into the tower, everything is dark, the light starts to go on. I I start to see people and young people, young Americans arriving. I'm excited. I go up in my office, in Cone Division office of the TAs, and drink a little coffee, share some words with my new colleagues, and say hi to the professors, and so doing like a regular department life as a TA, you know what it is. And then when 8 a.m. started to get closer, I started to feel a tickling in my stomach. I started to feel a little nervous and at ease, but I had my register, I had my material, I had the know-how of the technology that I was gonna use. So I was pretty self-confident. Take the elevator, go down to the room, walk towards the classroom, get the right classroom, because that's important. Sometimes I had the wrong classroom sometimes. It was fun. And enter the class and see 22, 23 young American students, majority female, but also a lot of guys, looking at me and waiting. Some of them were smiling, some of them were talking. They already had their phone or their smartphone. There was still some flip phone, I remember, but they were already a minority. Many had their laptop, especially the Mac Pro. So I said, buongiorno, buongiorno ragazzi, sono il vostro insegnante, sono il vostro docente, sono il vostro, non ho detto professore, I didn't say professor because I was not a professor yet, but I was your teacher. Sono il vostro insegnante per il corso di Italiano 101, Italian 101. And the silence broke. Everybody were sitting down, looking at me, and at that very moment, I hadn't already not even switched on the computer. A paralysis, a freeze in my whole mind, in my whole body took over, and I was there in front of the student. I hope I was not shaking. I hope I was not pale. I have no reason, no way of knowing how I was looking. Probably not very good, but anyway, I have no idea. And in my head, in my mind, they were coming up towards my mouth, a flood of things to say, in English, of course, and then prepare this, let's do that, we will go over the syllabus, this class is gonna be here, etc., etc. No, the formalities, the very beginning, yes, syllabus week, syllabus day, first day of class, but nothing was coming out. I'm also afraid that I was not breathing properly. Probably I was not breathing, and maybe it's already a miracle that I didn't fade away, I didn't pass out. And I was looking at those faces, and I saw no curiosity, no judgment. That was good. And by no curiosity, I mean no like derision, like smiles. No, I thought they were just looking at me. They were probably, look at this guy who is gonna be our teacher, and let's see what he has to say. And I had so many things to say, but I couldn't. I just couldn't speak. And then something bad happened to me, because I got scared, because I said, oh my goodness, this is not my place. I don't belong here. I'm not good enough for this job. What am I doing here? What am I doing here? Why did I move? Why am I in this place right now? And I felt a cold in my hands, and then in my feet, and then some tingling in my stomach. And then I was gonna, for a moment, I seriously consider exiting the taking my backpack, taking my stuff, and just say sorry, or not even say that and go away, and just go to the airport and go back to Italy and let's forget about it, forget the American adventure. But something happened. There was a student in the first row. I still remember, she was a female, a girl, that had looked at me, and then she did smile. She smiled with no derision, with no intent of like making fun of me or say, "What are you doing?" She just smiled politely, not a big smile, a shining smile, just a regular, warm, human, profoundly human smile. And I looked at that, and I everything that had to come out started to come out in order. In English first, and then in Italian. And then the class started, and then everything started to go well. But if that student, whose name I still remember, Simone, if that student had smiled, I don't know what I would have done. Probably I would not be here now in academia, in the United States, because probably I would have fled. And under the panic or the uncertainty. So this makes me think how human contact, human vision, human interaction in an age in which we talk all day long about AI and intelligence, artificial intelligence, and remote, etc. The presence, that smile, that student, the other students, myself, that morning, so far away, so cold, was crucial. So when, dear Americans, because I'm a professor of Italian and I work in America, so my ideal public, my ideal student is the American student, not necessarily in his 20 or her 20s, can be 40, 50. I had students that were in their 60s, in their 70s, in their 50s, in their 40s. I love everybody. I accept everybody. I am willing to teach to everybody that comes to my classes, that comes to me. But when I talk, my ideal listener, my ideal student is the American student, because he's the student I know the best. I know best. And I've been working for and I've been working with for so long. That's why I love America so much. That's why I'm still here. And I'm doing what I'm doing with a passion that I'm using. So that smile. So when they tell you, American students, don't smile too much. Remember, Italian people don't smile in the streets. That's true. Italian people smile less. And probably if they meet for the first time, if you cross them in the street and you smile, some of them can have strange ideas about that. Some can misunderstand. Some other can just smile back. But the majority probably will not smile. But doesn't matter. If you like to smile, and if it's safe to do so, do it. Because a smile is a great thing. Because I think that smile saved my career. For sure, saved that morning. Because I was in a very bad place at that moment before I was saved by Simone's sweet, human, profoundly warm smile. So, Americans, Europeans, keep smiling, keep being human, because this is what we have. Thank you for listening to my story time. I hope you liked it. And as I usually say at the end of my videos, I say, take courage. Coraggio, coraggio, coraggio.